I say I don't got time, I really don't have time. Like, I'm such a busybody, and I have everything going on at every single second of my life.
I gotta send you this video, but all I'm hearing from you is you cursing yourself, dude.
I'm not cursing myself in a bad way.
Curse has a big, strong word, but you're saying these things like I don't, and I can't, and I'll never, and always. Like, absolutes are the enemy.
Yeah, I feel like I'm slowly realizing what my traumas are mentally.
Yes.
And what I call it is a black box. So everybody in their life has a black box. And all your traumas and all your issues that you've ever had growing up or anything like that, different things you've been through, you stuff them in your black box.
Yeah.
People call it subconscious.
Or your shadow self, like Jung.
Yeah. Yep. I call it black box because I feel like that's the best way for me to understand it in myself.
Yes.
So what you have to do growing up in life is either you empty your black box slowly and find out like, hey, this is kind of like what my issue is, this is what's happening, solve it. Or you keep things forever in your black box and it just overfills and it kind of ruins
Can I give you a third option?
Yeah.
So, even if you empty your black box, the black box is still there, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's an empty black box.
Yeah.
So, and there's certain things that you can take out a million times that will always come back. Like for me, it's like depression is like my biggest foe. And it's like I can go months feeling great. But I know, like how an alcoholic can never have another sip of alcohol or else they'll get right back into it. Yeah. I know it's always going to be a thing. It's always going to be, I'm going to go through a funk in some way or another.
Absolutely.
But instead of resenting that or hating it, this is like the Jung shadow self. It's the acceptance and like compatibility with, like working in tandem with it versus like hating it. Like, do you meditate ever?
I try to. So my one friend, Alkaline Tyler, what's up? He sent me a Yoga Nidra. I think that's what it's called, Yoga Nidra recording type thing. And I try to meditate to it every night or like at least every other night.
Yeah. So you've tried. So what the first thing you realize when you meditate is if you're supposed to be focusing on either that Yoga Nidra or if you're just in silence trying to focus on your breath, immediately realize how hard that is, and you realize that you have thoughts that just will like do whatever the fuck they want no matter what. And then like the more you do it, you get a little bit better at recognizing those things, and I think that's really the whole point. But instead, like, you can't be mad at yourself. You can't hate the fact that this thought train just came right by. You can only acknowledge it for what it is, good or bad, and let it go, you know? And that train will make its rounds, but as long as you can always catch yourself, be like, oh, I'm hopping on that fucking train again or this thought pattern or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you can learn how to work with it. So like that's the actual like realization of the shadow self, is that you can use it now. Because like they say, like the most amazing, best people are the most dangerous ones.
Aww.
And if you can't acknowledge that you're capable of extreme, you know, evil, then how are you going to be capable of extreme good? You know?
That's true.
And it's not to say like ever like lean into the evil, but recognize it. It's there, and then because you can recognize it without hating it, because hate comes from the negative. Hate comes out of that black box. And that's me growing up.
I would hate that I would get into this. I would hate that like that train would come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now what do? Do I either hate myself more? Do I get into like this quiet space where I don't want to do anything? Like I went through that from October to December of this year. Yeah. It was the most unreal, scary, exciting thing of my life because I finally realized what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how do I move next? And my one friend helped me through it. And they were like, yeah, you're just like waking up, you know, it's an awakening, and you're realizing like what you're about, who you are, like what's your next step, like it all happened for a reason.
You're taking back control.
Where before, when I would get into those phases, I wouldn't know actually what is going on. Yeah. And I would question like my sanity. I'd be like, oh, is there something wrong with me? You know, and I feel like a lot of us are told, like, anytime you think different or anytime you're going through those feelings, people think, like, you're mental or something.
Oh, so. Yeah. I mean, like, there comes a point where you got to embrace being crazy, because what crazy is what normal people dub as crazy. And normal people, what society says, is never what any of us in our heart want to do. But if we believe the lie, if we believe the negative side, if we believe the black box, then that's all we are, and that's all we're going to ever see is the results of that.
So we're outside of Exferimentation. An awesome place in Pontiac, Michigan, where they make awesome brews, supposedly amazing tacos. What else do they do? I don't know.
They have live music. Open mic nights are on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got to talk about Corona, unfortunately. But, so if you are not comfortable sitting inside, you can get curbside, I think she said Monday and Wednesdays, 3 to 7. Okay. 4-hour time blocks.
Heck
it's really
yeah.
great. I encourage you to come inside, though. And actually, without Corona, they typically have a bunch of vintage video games. They have an SNES, an original NES, Super Nintendo, the 64, Xbox
Mario
One.
Party 3, let's
Literally,
go!
like, they have like tournaments of like Mario Kart and shit. It's so fun.
Oh my gosh,
Obviously,
I'm so down.
that's just like a cesspool of germs and Corona now, but...
So, we have something exciting today. We have something called TRNKTALK. Unfortunately, Corona has ruined a lot of things for not just me, but everyone so far. So I wanted to do TRNKTALK because I feel like this is more organic. We don't have to be in closed doors. So we got my good friend Shane here.
Hi.
What's up, Shane? And yeah, we're going to talk about him, talk about his life. Oh my gosh, no!
No, this thing wants to kill us.
I don't even know how to start it now because we freaking just had a bee come at us.
Yeah, that was
bee totally came at us.
death.
How has Corona been for you? Cause
It's been a dream come true. Let me tell you. I know, obviously not the fact, all the negative sides aside. So like, people are dying. That really is sad. People, old people are susceptible, sadness, businesses are going out of business. It sucks. There's so much negative, but like we talked, you focus on the positive and then everything becomes great. I always had this dream that I never even like said out loud, but I always thought it would be so cool if something happened where the whole world just paused for 6 months or something.
Wow.
Which is literally what happened. And so then for me, it was like an immediate like, all right, I'm not going to waste the 6 months. I'm going to use this 6 months to like do as much fucking music as I can fucking do. I'm going to take time to learn how to cut hair and start barbering and just out of my house. I'm going to get a stick and poke and start fucking practicing on myself and then start tattooing other people. Because I've always loved stupid little like side gig shit.
Things like that.
Yeah, and what's really cool, honestly, is by the whole course of this 6 months that things were really shut down, because now they're kind of open up and they're going to shut back down. I get it. This is a forever now. But
new norm.
But I successfully got to a point where I feel like I don't need to go back to the working world.
Corona has definitely done well for anyone in the business world or anyone who just needed a break from life to realize what they're into. Like, I know for sure I haven't heard of you in a while. Like, I just haven't seen you post or anything.
Right.
So what have you been up to?
I've been up to a lot of stuff, and that's what I love about not posting a lot is typically, like, you would think, oh, that person's not doing anything, but it, in a lot of times, means they're doing a lot, and they don't have, the time or, it's like you're prepping for something. So that's pretty much been it. So really, it was a crazy story. So, like, I have my project, Mood 42, just at Mood, and then 42. And that's, like, my project with my friend Anthony, who's an amazing, like, mixing, mastering guy, and I'm doing more production side, so we work really well together. Yeah. So if anyone needs anything mixed or mastered, just follow Mood 42, and then come, like, connect to us that way. But, so that's been, like, my outlet for art as of recent, which I have plenty, and it's kind of scattered, just like my brain, but currently that's what we're doing. But in that, I've started like producing a lot more, and I have a couple artists. One of them I think might even be here. He's Who Is We is his band name, so just Who Is We. I think there's like the underscores between each word. And then the other one is Tej, which right now it's just Tej, but it's going to actually turn into Tej 42.
How do you spell that, Tej?
Teej.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, easy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be some like crazy There's going to be a Z in there randomly. Like, you
so
never know.
I'll tell you a bit about him because that's most recent what I've been focusing on. And so with him, one of those funny stories where everything just kind of lines up how it's supposed to. But he's a friend that he's, I think, like in his 30s or 31 or something. So he's really more my brother's age. And so I was never friends with him growing up or anything. Yeah. But he, whenever he graduated, I knew he moved to Taiwan, and because he got his bachelor's in Mandarin Chinese and then moved to get his master's in Taiwan in Chinese.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is super cool. Like, how many people do you know that, like, actually know Chinese or actually even know a language? Like, it's amazing because the school system doesn't know how to teach it. Yeah, no. Another topic. But so he does that, and while he's out there, he spent like 4 or 5 years out there or something like that. I'm probably butchering it, so when he watches it, sorry, Tommy. But so pretty much he got real good at Chinese, and while he was out there, he's an artist too, so he went to some songwriting conventions and stuff, and then like made some good friends with some people that had like ends with like Sony in Taiwan and stuff. So just kind of like put a small little toe into that world, in the music world in Taiwan, which is just like, I never even thought about Taiwan.
Yeah. And you would never think like you would just get that opportunity going there to like do something, and then how the universe just like says, nope, we're going to have you meet these people.
Yeah, and so then he came back, and he came back because he got a really good job opportunity out here, because if you speak Chinese, you're super valuable to corporations working in China or Chinese-speaking countries in Asia.
Yeah.
So he's been doing that for a few years, and that's when we reconnected. And he's been in this path where he's met all of his business goals, like his professional, work world, societal goals, way sooner than he thought he would. Like by the time he's 30, he's achieved all these goals, and it's just like, he's amazing. Like, yeah, it is amazing, but he's feeling like not fulfilled, you know, because it doesn't feed into the true artist heart that he has. Yeah. Which I'm sure you understand, which I understand. Any artist, any creative, which everyone's creative, so don't tell yourself you're not. But
there's always something you're good at. I feel like people don't give themselves enough credit, or they'll just easily give up and say, oh, I'm not creative in anything. Yeah. I'm not an artist. I'm like, but there's something you do that you may be good at if you just allow yourself to just explore it. Like, I hate when people tell me that, because I'm just like, no, I know you have it in you. Everybody has it in them.
And
sorry,
so,
go ahead.
So he is feeling this way, so he just started writing. Because he did rap in Chinese, which is really cool. So he starts writing more. And then he reaches out to me, he sends me a song that he kind of just produced on GarageBand and stuff, but he wrote a dope rap too. And I fucked with it, and so I was like, yeah, let me just like remake the beat and see what we can do. Yeah. And it turned out dope. That was like literally January, like, or February, like right when all this kind of really hit. And we never met in person once doing it. Wow. And through that, then he's like, you know, he liked the outcome of that one song, and so he was like, I'll pay you or whatever, like, can I do 6 songs, like an EP or whatever? And I'm like, fuck yeah, why not? We have Corona, we have nothing else to do.
Yeah, let's get creative,
so it was really cool. This is like kind of ties back into like my experience with Corona is we were able to make not only 6 songs, but like essentially 12 songs without only sending things over the internet, you know, like he'd send me his vocals and then I'd send him the track or whatever, and it just like worked really awesomely. Like he's a big dreamer, so we'll have these long conversations where we just speak our dreams as big as we can possibly imagine, which is super healthy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And
especially if you're creating with other people, you guys have to have those talks, because that's where the bond comes in. I feel like that's where, like, the bond comes in. That's where things
so
go smooth.
You
guys understand.
Comes.
Yeah, because you might say something that the other person didn't get, but then once you guys talk about it, explain it, then you're like, oh shoot, like I'm gonna take that into my life. Like, thank you for that teaching. I feel like that's a teaching. Like everything that you talk about with anyone is a teaching.
Right.
So
well, everything's a learning experience. You know? And unfortunately, we're stuck thinking that school is that way, when school is kind of the opposite.
School's like
that's another thing. Starbucks and school, like the American education system, we could do full interviews on those. But anyways, so because we start talking about our dreams and goals and just dreaming big together, a lot of the stuff that we were just talking about started happening. And so we discovered a bunch of these underground artists out in Taiwan that are phenomenal, like so good. Yeah. And all we did was just message them because he can talk to them. It's like he is my link between barriers there, like language barriers.
Yeah.
And so then we start collaborating, and actually we just finally got like the first mix of like a full collab song with an artist that's already out there who is writing for Sony but isn't like signed by them. He's just a writer. Yeah. And so we're trying to like bring up just his solo career more and stuff. And then there's this whole like the grand scheme of things is like eventually, because he's actually planning on moving back there soon. His wife is from there.
Aww.
And like because of Corona, they lost their jobs and stuff. So it's like they feel as though their path is leading back to Taiwan, which is dope. Yeah. And I told him at the beginning of all of this, I was like, I want to live in another country, and I can't think of a better one than one that I've never even thought of, like Taiwan. So let's do it.
Hey.
And I told him, when you move, like, I'll be right behind you. Like, you're my artist, like I want to be a part of that too. And so eventually here, I'm going to move to Taiwan, like, because in Asian culture, pop culture wise, they mirror American culture, but they typically, and this isn't a diss, this is just how it is, they're just like a few years behind. So their K-pop reminds me of like Chainsmokers from like 4 or 5 years ago, like big EDM.
Yeah.
And then slowly hip-hop has come around, and there's now kind of, and hip-hop in Asia is more on that SoundCloud wave that we were experiencing with like 6ix9ine,
he's good. Some of his songs are good. Come on.
Yeah, and that's a lesson of learn to separate art from the artist. As I was saying in a more concise way now, Asian pop culture is usually typically about 4 or 5 years behind American culture, pop culture, that is. So what we're realizing is we're seeing these artists, because Tommy had a chance with Sony. He has friends that took the chance with Sony to be a writer, to be like a ghostwriter or whatever. And it just seems like there's really no artistic, like room for an artist to be fulfilled doing that, because they're taking the good artist, like how American labels do. They take the good artist, make them write, give them a flat rate, $500 a song or $1,000 a song to the producer or something, and then putting it through their people, like the most cookie cutter person that they have at the top, and then all the revenue, all the royalties, all the actual money, which I hate talking about, but what's actually deservedly to the artist that originally wrote it, is only going to these labels and these bullshit, artists and stuff.
True, though.
And so like, I have this dream of going out there and like saving them before Sony or Universal snatches them up, and then like I really want to create like my own independent record label that is international. Like obviously it's America, like Detroit and Taiwan now, but eventually we dream big, and we were like, why not extend to France and find a dope French rapper that's gonna collab with this Chinese rap and stuff? Because
that's what being an artist is all about, is finding collabs. It doesn't have to be local collabs. And I feel like it's another plus from COVID is like how you were saying, you're able to send songs back and forth through the internet. And I've had some of my friends, even like rappers wise, they've told me recently, they're like, yeah, like I've done work with someone out of Japan, or I've done work with someone out of what's that one place? Everybody goes there for vacations. Bali. Yeah, somebody out of Bali. And I'm like, okay, no, that's exactly what being a creative and making music is all about, is expanding, giving the artist the independence. Because
yeah, and that's my thing. If I were to actually start a label like that, because truly I don't give a fuck about money. That comes back to the not going back to the working world. Like, that means I'm scrounging for money each week, doing haircuts or whatever just to pay my rent. That's fine. I've never valued money. And so, like, if I'm going to become this label, because, like, there are independent record labels. And so it's like, are you really independent if you're under a label? Yes, because the label itself is independent. Yeah. It's not a systematic, like, big thing where Sony has a record label but can pay for it by the camera that we're shooting this interview on, or their technology side. So, like, they're doing essentially on a macro scale what I'm talking about, and have been doing it for a long time, and have figured out all the ways to fuck the artist. Especially after Chance showed that it can be done, you got Frank Ocean totally doing the most badass shit, taking millions from Def Jam, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And dropping Blonde, which is like, in my opinion, one of the best
I just
albums
got
of.
goosebumps.
I know, you can't not, man. Every time I'm on a plane, you gotta listen to it. But it's just like there's so many examples now in American pop culture, which is empowering as fuck. It's like the artist is finally, because of the internet, because of technological innovation, we can take back some of that power and control. Like the fact that like majority of people listen to music now on Spotify or YouTube means, you know, like video killed the radio star, and then streaming killed the video star. Something's going to kill streaming, but each time it seems like it's getting more public access, more like now
Free.
Somebody can blow up off of one YouTube video that they uploaded in their bedroom. So it's just like, that's where all rules are off the fucking table now. And
I love that.
I do too.
Oh
like,
gosh,
that's why we love simplicity, is because now we're actually able to be, you know, use shitty equipment and it's just as fine. Like, there's no quality standards anymore.
Like how we talked about, like, I feel like everybody just tries to make things so complex nowadays when it's like, no, if you go back to simplicity is actually just, like, it's beautiful that way. Yes, some artists that do complex things, of course it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think the simplicity always wins in the end.
Yeah, and it's, you know, where's it, like, where's the source of it? Like, are you doing it complexly because there's a complex method that you're trying to follow, or are you creating your own complex method?
Yeah.
Like, man, there's an artist named Shrevowski or something. He has an awesome documentary, but he's like an unknown artist that is probably one of the most amazing abstract realism combination artists ever. I really wish I could remember the documentary, because literally this guy wasn't recognized until he was like 90. And then one guy who's like an art student found him and was like, how have we never heard of this? He created like an entire art culture for his like homeland of like Poland or something.
Yeah.
And
nobody recognized it.
And like there's actual history there with like World War II that really destroyed a lot of it. There's so many skis.
Yeah.
But
skis. I'm a ski. So like,
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
What's your last name?
Brat.
No, I know. What's your real last name? We'll cut it out if you don't want.
Pavlovsky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why did I think it was like Pavlasko or something, or Pavelko?
Pavlovsky. Macedonian, actually. That's my native land. Yeah. See, that's crazy that it took like, to this guy who was like 90 years old for someone to like.
Well, and that's the hope, is like, then you don't have to worry about finding that validation in the present, and it lets you just put things out. You know, that's all artists want to do, is create. But we get caught up in the validation side of it, or the monetization side of it, or like the recognition that you can get from it. But who's to say, like, we're just now discovering and like confirming theories that Einstein made about black holes that he made before black holes ever were discovered, you know? And there's so many more formulas out there that like are gonna get discovered. Who's to say the formula for black matter hasn't been discovered? We just aren't at the level to like know it yet, you know?
Or like comprehend it yet. Somebody will though. Somebody will totally just be like, yep, this is it. And we're going to be like, no, you're dumb. But then later, like 60 years down the road, we'll be like,
they could be dead for 100 years. And, you know, and it's like, there is a sadness in that of like, man, like really he never got to see the fruit of his ideals. Like so many people way back when astronomy started theorized that the Earth didn't, you know, that everything revolved around the sun. And they were literally killed for it. That was like blasphemy. But doesn't mean that they're not right.
I think what separates creatives though from people that are like fit into a mold is they want to stand out and they want to rebel what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's beautiful about, I guess you can say about like our lives now versus like lives like maybe 50 years ago where things were a little bit more
like that. The bottom gray it messes with your perception.
I know, there's so much.
I know.
I love it. So this might be a good time to talk about where we are currently and what's going on. So we're at Exferimentation, which we talked about, but there is like a scooter event happening, and it's actually my friend that started the scooter shop that now sponsors and has a bunch of people underneath. It's called Rely. So like Rely Scooters.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll find it that way. But yeah, and they're having this dope ass event where we got skaters and scooters over here just like doing dope shit. I don't know if you guys can even see it. Maybe they're like coming in and out. But yeah, so that's why we're like distracted a little bit.
But it's kind of fun. I wish I learned how to skateboard in life. I never learned.
Well,
I always fell
scootering
on
seems
my
a
butt.
little bit less intimidating to me. You got something to hold on to with your hands.
Yeah.
I always tried to skateboard. I really want. That was my first dream. It was like playing Tony Hawk. I'm like, I'm gonna be a professional skateboarder. But I could never get the fucking kickflip, which is the one thing that if you're skateboarding, people yell at you while they drive by, go do a kickflip, and then the tragic pain, ego-shattering moment when you try to do a kickflip for that random person driving by and then you can't do it. So we're getting kicked out by the scooters. And we're happy to be kicked out by the scooters because they're doing awesome scooter shit, which we can't fucking do.
No, I can't.
To us, we're the weird ones.
I'm the person that like smacks their ankle with the scooter.
Oh yeah.
And it like hurts.
Yeah.
And then I'm on the ground like in like fetal position because I'm like, I don't know, and then like thumb in the mouth type thing. Yeah.
So anyways, this has been a good talk.
Heck yeah. I feel like every time we get together,
stuff.
we always just like bond.
Over anything.
Yeah. I love it.
I mean, that's just, and that can happen with anyone. Don't think that you can't relate to anyone because we are everyone just in a different form.
Yeah. And not just that, but it makes me so happy to know that like you're just going through this path of life where you know, you're like, going into next phases and Taiwan could be an option. Like,
oh yeah,
that is wild.
Very much an option. Not even. It's like the only option. That's like the plan. And as long as I look at it that way, then it'll happen. Yeah. You know?
And you just gotta let it flow. That's what it is. I let everything in my life flow, and it's been going great so far. So
I know.
Guys, I thank you so much for watching. I will post links below on where we're at, Exferimentation,
all the shit.
Scoop Place, what was it called?
Rely.
I will post Shane's goods. I will post any other things that we were talking about today. Thank you for joining us for Trunk Talk, and I will see you guys another week. Peace out. Love you. Make sure to comment what you liked.
Wear your damn mask.
And wear your masks. Yes, we're
not.
Black
Lives Matter.
Think of me every time you hear that song. Yeah, you told me you still love me, but you think the timing's wrong.